individuals whose intellect has developed to such heights that they are able to tune in, as it were, to the divine broadcast. These are prophets, not, as biblical tradition saw it, ordinary humans who have received audible, verbal communications from God. The story of Moses began in the book of Exodus in the Bible. The Hebrew descendants of Joseph, the Israelites, had begun to increase in the land of Egypt, and the Pharaoh of the time was worried they would try to take power, so he enslaved them. When Moses was born, the Pharaoh had decided all male children must be killed so they cannot grow up to fight him. Moses' mother was terrified and attempted to hide her male baby for 3 months. Fearing she wouldn't be able to hide him much longer, she set him adrift in a basket along the river Nile, hoping the power of God would save him. Moses floated down the river to where the Pharaoh's daughter was bathing. She rescued him and named him Moses. It was believed that the word Moses meant to draw out. She raised him as a son, and he grew up in the Egyptian palace. One day he saw an Egyptian beating an enslaved Hebrew person so badly that he lost his temper and killed the Egyptian. This meant he had to flee the country as people knew what he had done. He fled to Midian, where he rescued the daughters of a high priest. As a token of gratitude, he was gifted one of the daughters, Zipporah, as a wife. He lived happily as a shepherd in Midian for 40 years. One day he saw a burning bush that didn't seem to be consumed by the fire. He heard the voice of God with a message asking him to save the people who were enslaved in Egypt and lead them to the promised land. At first, Moses refused God and asked him to send someone else, but God insisted and said he would have his brother Aaron with him, as well as supernatural powers to help him convince the Pharaoh that he speaks for God. Moses returned to Egypt and asked the Pharaoh to free those enslaved. He was not happy with this request and didn't want to lose all the people he enslaved, so he said no. This made God very angry, and so he sent 10 plagues to the land of Egypt. It was the 10th plague, the one that killed all firstborn sons, including the Pharaoh's, that made him eventually free the enslaved people. The Israelites all left Egypt and took lots of jewels and treasure with them. This angered the Pharaoh, and he sent an army after them. As the Israelites met the Red Sea, they realized they were trapped. God told Moses to lift his staff, and when he did, the Red Sea parted to let them through. The sea closed on and killed the Egyptian army that had been following them. The Israelites were free but had nowhere to live and no food, so God made sure when they woke up they found white food that tasted like honey on the floor. When they needed water, Moses could strike his staff on the rocks to make it flow. It took 3 months of traveling for them to reach the foot of Mount Sinai. God asked Moses to meet him at the top. Moses climbed up in a thunderstorm and waited for God. God gave Moses 10 important laws known as the 10 Commandments that would tell his people how to live. What are the 10 Commandments in the story of Moses? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Honor thy father and thy mother. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet anything that is thy neighbor's. Is Moses' story over? The last part is later. Thank you for listening.